ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app. From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the Closing Bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the Closing Bell.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, sports fans from all around the globe. This is East Coast Sports Investors Closing Bell for Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Happy to be back here in this fine new year, ready to break down what's going on tonight in the Tuesday slate of mostly basketball coming down the pipe tonight, my friends. College and NBA, decent couple of slates there. As we were spoiled for I don't know how many days in a row with football action. We've got none of it today. Obviously, coming down from last night's yesterday afternoon and last night's two college football playoff games. Couple of very very at times sloppy games for sure. But at the end of the day, some versions of a couple of classics. But the Michigan-Alabama game, obviously, kind of not ugly because it was very close and well contested and good, trench performances, offensive and defensive line performances, but skill positions in that game didn't have their best game until later in that game, and then obviously Michael Penix taking care of business for Washington. Obviously, almost let that one slip away, but got a fun Washington and Michigan title game where a team that at least in Michigan's case obviously hasn't been winning titles in 25 plus years. We stray away from the Alabama, Ohio States, Georgias. So definitely a breath of fresh air and kind of an indication of the parity that aside from Georgia has kind of been around here for the last handful of years in college football and kind of seeing off the 4-team playoff well the way we saw it yesterday and hopefully next week. So excited for the 12-team playoff next year. Would have been fun this year for sure. Would have had a few teams that obviously were worthy of another shot coming down the way to potentially get themselves in the mix. But two great games yesterday. So really not upset with the four teams that were in it at this point. I know I was vocal about being okay with it in the first place. Obviously, Florida State getting the pants beaten off of them by Georgia. Not quite an indication of what Florida State was. Nowhere near the full team that they had. Obviously, still a tough look when you're trying to be undefeated in the week leading up to it, trying to say that you're going to claim a title if you go undefeated. Probably shouldn't have been saying that up against a Georgia team that still has plenty of dogs playing. Obviously didn't have their full team, but deeper recruiting classes. They've got more dogs there, and a little bit of motivation factor for them to not, kind of get a doormat feeling when the other team's talking about being undefeated and you're the one standing in their way. So 63-3, obviously a tough look there, and I think we'll move on from this and probably won't hear too much about this situation any further as we go on into 2024 and the 12-team playoff. So excited for that. NFL, exciting week of NFL games this past weekend leading up to a handful of Got a few must-win games, win and in games situations. My Packers win against the Bears, and they're in. Pittsburgh on Saturday needs to win to set the possibility up. You got Houston and Indy, great game there. Winner goes to the playoffs, and then obviously a handful of other scenarios, and capping it off with that Dolphins and Bills game on Sunday night. Should be a good one, obviously. Bills -3 right now in Miami. But Miami in the playoffs, but need to win that game to get the 2 seed and lock up home field advantage in their first couple of games there. So interested to see that. I know the Bills hype train is off and rolling now, so we'll see what happens on Sunday night. Still got I guess they will know by the time they do play on Sunday night. But potentially, depending on what happens, they could lose and still be in the playoffs. But I want to say it's if the Steelers and Jags win and the Bills lose, they're out. Maybe there's one other factor to it, but I think that's as simple as it is. And Pittsburgh's playing Baltimore, who doesn't have to do anything if they don't want to. So curious to see where we go this upcoming weekend in some of the action. But obviously, it's half of the games don't matter, so those are ones that are obviously a little tough to call. And some of these games where, like you said, like I said, that Pittsburgh and Baltimore game, how do you judge that one with a lot of Baltimore's second unit playing? How much is the first unit playing, if at all? So it's tough to crack. I've never been a fan of trying to find myself into those type of games. But while the Bears don't have anything to play for necessarily, same situation as what the Packers-Lions was Week 18 last year, where no, the Lions didn't have, at the time of the game, didn't have anything to play for. Leading up to it, they thought they might have. But at the time of the game, they didn't have anything to play for it. Still want to go and ruin their rivals' chance of making the playoffs, and Bears will be the exact same scenario this year. So hopefully the Packers are more well-prepared for that exact same situation than they were last year, but we shall find out, and I'm excited for that one there. And then, again, I said Houston and Indy should be a good one. Winner goes to the playoffs. If Jacksonville loses on Sunday, the winner of that game will end up being the AFC South Division champ. And then Minnesota-Detroit probably doesn't have too much. Minnesota has an outside shot, but Atlanta-New Orleans, if Tampa loses, winner of that one gets the NFC South. If Tampa wins, the Saints can still get in, I know, with a few other things going their way. So a few scenarios, handful of scenarios, so it should shape up for a big, big week. The other exciting thing about January 2nd and past the new year is basically starting today, we get a nice resumption of some awesome college basketball games, basically on an almost daily basis, if not 5-6 days a week, if not all 7 days a week. So that starts here tonight, and we can get right into it. It's going to be short and sweet here today, as I always say on these shows. I don't know. I don't think there's any ranked team versus a ranked team, but there's plenty of ranked teams within their conference now playing some tough games. Tough matchup. Tonight's a decent one here, especially in my Big Ten. UConn hosting DePaul. That one's the first game of the night for any bigger matchups, any ranked teams, bigger conference games. I'm not going to touch that one too much. UConn, 23.5-point favorite at home. That one is in stores, so not the XL Center. That one's in stores. 23.5 DePaul, 3-9. I haven't looked too much lately at who the worst Power 5 teams are per KenPom, but I know DePaul is kind of a contender for that one there. They have had some tough games, though. Tough opponents early in the year, though. They were losing to some mid-major teams. That is not going to look too good right about this time when you're looking at capping these games. So that's why you got a 23.5-point spread in UConn or in Connecticut here. Don't know what to expect, whether or not they cover that spread or not. Last year, though, at UConn, it was in March 1st. 17.5-point spread for UConn. DePaul was a better team last year, so let's give them credit last year for that. So they've just gone much worse this year. So not going to find too much interest in that game tonight. UConn should take care of business, but probably is going to land right around that spread there. Let's see. Tennessee's got a non-conference game themselves. Purdue and Maryland is one. Tough one to crack. You've got Maryland, who, as we talk about on this show regularly, is a wild card team and kind of all over the place. They've had a nice stretch here of rattling off some wins. But frankly, at Maryland here, it is 6.5. The spread here, it was a nearly a pick 'em back in February of last year in Maryland. At Purdue, 8.5-point spread there. So I do think it is a little different here this year. Purdue is the number one team in the land right now. So only 6.5. I do still think this one's kind of a Maryland number, with everyone not really believing in the general public not really believing in Maryland here. Haven't had any statement wins. They've taken care of some business. They've had a couple of decent wins. Nice couple in conference, Indiana, Penn State. Or actually, I'm sorry, they lost to Indiana. They beat Penn State. Pick up a win a couple weeks ago against UCLA. So I'm kind of under the impression that this is still kind of a Maryland number, despite what the comparison to last year's number was, where Maryland, it was essentially a pick 'em, if not Maryland -1. That one was obviously a glaring something's going on here. I don't think it's as glaring in this case, but I would have respected a number one team in the country, Purdue team, to be a bigger favorite than this here on Maryland against a team that hasn't proven themselves really at all yet. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this one is still a Maryland number, but kind of pump the brakes on it. Haven't seen enough from Maryland to really want me to dive into the deep end with Maryland, but also definitely a spot where I'm pumping the brakes on Purdue tonight. UNC and Pitt. UNC 9-3. They are the per the AP the number 8 team in the country. Pitt unranked 9-4. UNC on the road here, 4.5 point favorites. So this one, I like this UNC team within, depending on how you look at them, as the current number 8 team in the country. I don't think they are quite that good. 12 per KenPom, so I'm not saying they're bad by any means. I think they are a little overrated, in my opinion. Pittsburgh, 45th team per KenPom. So to see this one 4.5 with a team that's a top 10 team, brand name like UNC right now, I can't remember what their first loss was, but UNC, no bad losses. I mean, a Villanova game in November, that's their worst loss. The other two back in December here, Kentucky and UConn, their only other 2 losses, which are obviously not bad losses by any means. So no one's really writing this UNC team off. They're obviously kind of writing them in if they're a top 10 team in the country right now. And Pitt, coming off of a loss at Syracuse as 1.5 point dogs, seems a little fishy to me. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this one is a Pitt number. Pitt actually in this matchup has given UNC some tough times. Last year at UNC, 8.5 point spread. Last year at Pitt, December 30th of last season, Pitt 6.5 point favorites. They win that one. So they did win both games. You would, if you're a UNC fan or a UNC backer, you're hoping that UNC's got some revenge on the brain. But this one feels like a goofy number, and it seems like a Pitt number here. The total 158, obviously a pretty high total, 158.5. That one is kind of right around where both these two teams lived. I would shade to the over myself there. UNC, like I said, kind of around that range there, but they've had some games in the 150s. Pitt hasn't quite had a total this high. They've had a couple in the 150s that have gone under. So I'm going to say lean towards the over as well there, but I'll lean towards Pitt and the over for that game. Definitely beware on UNC there. Iowa and Wisconsin, another solid game here. Obviously a weird matchup, clashing styles. Wisconsin 6.5 point favorites. Currently number 21 in the country per the AP. They are 14 per the AP They are 14th on KenPom, whereas Iowa on KenPom, I lost my place on that one, 54th. So Iowa's just a very weird team. They are 8-5. Haven't really had any bad losses though. That's the other thing about this Iowa team. All up against all of their mid-major teams, these scrub teams that come to town, they put the hurt on them and have taken care of business pretty damn well. Their 5 losses are, like I said, no bad losses. They lost to a Creighton team who at the time was highly ranked. Hasn't been as good, but still a tough team there. Lose to an Oklahoma team that is highly ranked now. Take care of business against Seton Hall. Lose to Purdue, who's obviously number 1 in the country. Lose at Iowa State, which is kind of a little different scenario of clashing styles, but a situation where Iowa State had revenge on the brain. And it was a letdown a little bit after a hard-fought, kind of mashed in between 2 conference games there, a tough spot there. They get the doors beat off them in a couple of these games against good teams. And then they lose to Michigan as slight home favorites. That's their worst loss, is that home loss to Michigan. They've bounced back. But as we know, this Iowa team is very streaky. They are hard to predict. They could, on their best day, they could probably beat anybody in the country. They could also probably lose to anybody in the country on their worst day. So are they going to be a tournament team? I'd say probably not. They probably will find themselves in the NIT. This is obviously a big one for them. But Wisconsin themselves here, 9-3, obviously playing pretty solid. Lose to it's been close to a month now since our last loss. They've only had 2 games since this, but lose to Arizona pretty badly earlier in December, and then like I said, they come back with a couple of wins against some mid-major teams. But only 6.5 for a ranked team up against a team that nobody's buying into yet. Wisconsin's won each of the last 3 in this matchup. Each of the 2 last year, and also the one prior to that the year before, which I think was the only matchup in 2022. But anyways, last year at Iowa, Wisconsin is an underdog in that game, and then at Wisconsin only a pick 'em. Wisconsin not as good as they are now. Iowa obviously better than they are now, so tough to look at those numbers in comparison there. But for a home team that's ranked right now up against a team that doesn't have any star power, they've lost all their star power, still playing a similar MO. I'm kind of I'm not bought in on this Iowa team tonight, but I'm at least pumping the brakes that I think this one could be a close game. I don't think the gap is this many points between these 2 teams. But then again, Iowa could shoot themselves out of the building. They could shoot themselves into it. The kicker for me in this one though is the total is 152.5. That is obviously significantly more shading towards an Iowa type of total than a Wisconsin total as far as controlling the pace of this game. I think, like I said, it's tough to look at the last matchups for who's going to win as far as breaking this one down, because Iowa better in previous years, Wisconsin better now than they have been the last couple of years, but same styles. Totals from last year's games, 133 and 139. One goes over, one goes under. So this is 152. I do think it is a statement. I could see it find a way to stay under that one, but still be in the 140s, 150s. But to me, this one kind of suggests that Iowa could have some success and be a part of the pace of this game to their liking as opposed to Wisconsin. So I'm leaning towards Iowa, at least hanging in the 6.5 here. I think that's too many points. I think Iowa not getting quite enough respect for still be. I am still hesitating because they could lose by 30 points here to anybody, as I always say. So it's not by no means is it the play of my night here, but I am definitely leaning towards Iowa on the road in Wisconsin there. Despite Wisconsin starting to turn their home court back into a feared place play, I think that's why you're getting some of that 6.5 inflated spread there. So I think it's inflated, and I'm going towards Iowa to at least cover the spread there tonight. Outside of that, you've got Baylor up against Cornell, 16-point spread. Cornell 10-2 though, tough team. Duke and Syracuse. Syracuse 10-3, but obviously their non-conference schedule is not anything to look too fondly at. Obviously, so 10-3 is a little fool's goldish there. As we said earlier, did beat Pitt. They've got a decent win against Oregon, but aside from that, not beating any overly quality teams there. Whereas Duke obviously taking care of business. The bad loss to Georgia Tech, but other than that, playing solid ball. Beat a tough Baylor team a couple of weeks ago. So I don't like getting into these 14.5 point spreads. Certainly doesn't suggest that Syracuse, like I kind of suggested with the UNC game, the Purdue game, and I'm already drawing a blank, but one other game where some of those numbers look like it might shade towards the underdog here. This one obviously doesn't suggest that Syracuse is going to have too much success. Duke team total 82.5. So I think you could see an ugly defensive performance from Syracuse here. Duke step up, kind of put on a show at home here. So I'm going to stay away from this one, but I will lean towards maybe the over led by Duke taking care of business there in that one. So that is going to do it for what I've got on college basketball tonight. Let's scoot on over to the NBA real quick. Handful of games, 6 games on the slate tonight. First one up, actually, Bulls and Sixers. My Bulls obviously playing a lot better basketball since Zach LaVine has gone down. Don't know what the record is at this point, but obviously playing a lot better. Above 500 since he has gone down, and Kobe White stepping up and playing all-star level basketball. This match against the Sixers, though, interesting spot here because the Bulls have won each of the last 2, both of those games being played in December. The most recent one being each of these teams' most recent game on Saturday, the 30th, December 30th. That one, no Embiid in that one. So the first game, the Bulls win in Chicago December 18th. I'm sorry, I'm mixing this up. First game, December 18th in Philly. Bulls win that one as 10-point dogs. Then they bounce back The Bulls in Chicago and take care of business against the Sixers without Embiid. Bulls favored in that game. Now we're back in Philly with a 10-point spread here. Embiid is back tonight. So for anyone who's loving what they're seeing from the Bulls, would be led to think this is very similar to what happened the first time. Let's dive in on the Bulls. Not a statement number at all for the Bulls here. This is a statement for the Sixers, in my opinion, after that 10-point spread where the Bulls couldn't take care of business. Now you've got the Sixers again here. Not to mention, before these last two games, this has been a matchup that Embiid and the Sixers have absolutely owned for the better part of 3 or so years. During the core of what the Bulls have here with Vooch and Levine, DeRozan. Obviously no Levine, but you know what I'm trying to say here. So I think there's going to be some incentive and motivation to get back on that train. Not liking what they've seen in the last two games with this Bulls team. Especially the one coming to town with Embiid, and I think Embiid put up 40 even in that game. So I am going to lean towards the Sixers winning this game and probably taking care of business and maybe putting the hurt down there on this Bulls team. So I'm staying away from my Bulls tonight and leaning on the Sixers there tonight. Let's see. A couple of these not super interesting. Kings, 15-point favorites at home against the Hornets. The Sacramento is back to lighten the beam pretty consistently right now. They are taking care of business 19-12. Huge spread here for Charlotte. I know no LaMelo Ball. Terry Rozier actually is probable after missing a little time, but they are this Charlotte team is looking ugly right now. Handful of big spreads that have kind of been a toss-up either way. So this is pretty indicative of what both teams have going on right now. 231 on the total. Would kind of shade me to the under, if I'm being honest, with both these two teams. Kings have been living well above that lately. Charlotte, when they're rolling, typically above that. This is right around where Charlotte has been at. So I with the Kings and this team, I'll lean towards the under, but not as in love with that one. And then you've got Golden State hosting Orlando in the nightcap. One of the nightcaps, Golden State now -3 at home here. That one has come down from -4. So I think this is a case where that's actually kind of it's tough to call with Golden State because they're obviously still Golden State. At home, they're only 4-11-2, but I think you're at a point where now people aren't buying into the home Warriors as much. They're kind of calling BS on that and going the other way. And with a 19-13 Orlando team who has been really good on the road to the spread, at least 10-6, losing record money line, but to the spread 10-6. Kind of, to me, seems like a Warriors number, surprisingly enough, where I think more people are going to be flocking to this good Magic team up against a wishy-washy Warriors team. So I'm honestly kind of buying into the Warriors tonight. They've got a 3-game losing streak that people are staring at these last 3 games as well, a couple of them at home. So I think people are kind of selling the Warriors right now, and I'm at a point where I'm kind of buying back into them, at least for tonight here. So I'm leaning towards the Warriors to win this game tonight at home. Against the Orlando Magic, and take down what's not a technical ups, but 15-7 over a 19-13 team. From that standpoint, you can count it, but obviously a 3-point favorite is not an upset. So I'm buying back into the Warriors at home. Call me chalk, but I don't think it's too chalky with the way people are thinking about this Warriors team right now. So. Let's see. Aside from that, Memphis 11.5-point favorites now with Ja. They, I think, won 4 in a row with him back and then lost their last 3 now. Spurs have won another game since their losing streak, but obviously still getting smoked for the most part here. So this one seems kind of fair. Won't be flocking to the Grizzlies. Their offense has kind of been struggling this last few days after that nice little boost from Ja there. But at the end of the day, going to stay away from this one. Ja is playing tonight. No real injuries there, but otherwise, staying away from that. Thunder hosting the Celtics. Thunder 4-point dogs at home to the Celtics. This Celtics team obviously getting some pretty big spreads when they are at home in the most case. They are on the road here. This is kind of right around where their road spreads typically are. Kind of feels like, I don't know. I'm going to lean towards the Celtics on this one. The Thunder have won 4 in a row. They're 22-9. This is typically where the Celtics spread is for a lesser team than this on the road, and they have taken care of business on those spreads. I think a toss-up spread, in my opinion, would have been like a 2.5. There have been 4 4.5. So I feel like a small statement for the Celtics, but I could be way off on this one. But I'll lean towards the Celtics on that one to close things out. That one's obviously not very confident, but only a couple things that I really liked in the NBA tonight, and one of them is certainly not the Bulls. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get on out of here. Just under 30 minutes, my friends. Mostly just basketball tonight. But obviously, if you missed anything, go ahead and rewind and catch up with everything basketball, college, and NBA tonight. We'll be back Wednesday and Thursday for some more closing bells as well. But aside from that, if you have not checked out WagerWire, please go and do so. Our friends at WagerWire are very nice people and are going to do everything they can to help you be a smarter, better, and everything involving the betting space and give you more options on what you can and can't do within that space. So definitely go and check out the app if you have not yet. And go check out every, maybe not today with it being January 2nd. I don't know if they did anything, but most Tuesday mornings, Jeff and CEO Travis, I shouldn't say CEO, COO, CEO, I'm not sure. Travis Geiger of WagerWire. Obviously, I need to be more educated myself before I start blabbing. But anyways, go check those shows out. Also very, very informative and helpful for anyone that's curious about learning more about WagerWire. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you, anybody who stopped by and hung out with me for a little bit here on this fine Tuesday afternoon. Want to wish everyone a happy New Year. Hope 2024 is even better than 2023, whether you had a good one or not. Hopefully 2024 is your best year yet. So thank you all for stopping by. I will go ahead and get on out of here. Best of luck if you got anything else going on tonight in the sports world, and I will see y'all tomorrow.